Proverbs 22, Phase 1. 1. A good name is more valuable than great wealth, and respect is better than silver or gold. This teaches that reputation outlasts riches. Wealth can be gained and lost, but character leaves a permanent imprint on how a person is remembered and trusted. 2. The rich and the poor share this in common. The Lord is the maker of them both. This is saying that status does not determine worth. All people stand on equal ground before God, regardless of income or position. 3. The wise see the danger of evil ahead and takes cover, but the simple keep going and suffer for it. This tells us that wisdom is proactive. Discernment recognizes warning signs early, while foolishness ignores them until consequences arrive. 4. Humility and reverence for the Lord bring riches, honor, and life. This teaches that lasting blessing flows from posture, not ambition. Submission to God produces outcomes pride cannot achieve. 5. Thorns and traps lie in the path of the crooked. Whoever guards their soul stays far from them. This means that moral compromise carries hidden dangers. Vigilance over one's inner life is a form of self-preservation. 6. Train a child in the way he should go. Even when he grows old, he will not turn from it. This teaches that early formation shapes lifelong direction. What is planted in youth tends to guide adulthood. 7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower becomes servant to the lender. This is saying that financial dependence creates power imbalance. Debt is not neutral. It affects freedom and authority. 8. Whoever sows injustice will reap disaster, and the rod of his anger will fail. This teaches that wrongdoing carries built-in collapse. Violence and oppression eventually exhaust themselves. 9. A generous eye is blessed because it shares bread with the poor. This tells us that generosity invites blessing. Open hands reflect trust in God's provision. 10. Drive out the scoffer, and conflict will leave. Strife and insults will disappear. This means that some conflict is sustained by character, not circumstance. Removing mockery restores peace. 11. Whoever loves a pure heart and gracious speech will have the king as a friend. This teaches that integrity and wise communication open doors even to power. Character attracts favor. 12. The eyes of the Lord guard knowledge, but he overthrows the words of the unfaithful. This is saying that truth is protected by God himself. Deception may speak loudly, but it will not stand. 13. The lazy man says, "There's a lion outside. I'll be killed in the streets." This teaches that laziness manufactures excuses. Fear becomes a mask for avoidance. 14. The mouth of the forbidden woman is a deep pit. The one the Lord is angry with falls into it. This tells us that seductive temptation, sexual or otherwise, conceals destruction. What promises pleasure becomes a trap. 15. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but discipline drives it far away. This teaches that correction is not cruelty. Loving discipline redirects immaturity toward wisdom. 16. Whoever oppresses the poor to increase his wealth or gives to the rich will end in poverty. This means that manipulating power for gain reverses blessing. God resists unjust economics. The 30 sayings of the wise. Transition. Incline your ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply your heart to my knowledge. This introduces a deliberate shift. The reader is being called to attentive, intentional learning. 18. For it is pleasing when you keep them within you and have them ready on your lips. This teaches that wisdom is meant to be internalized, not merely heard, stored in the heart and expressed in speech. 19. So that your trust may be in the Lord, I instruct you today. Yes, you. This tells us the goal of wisdom is trust in God, not self-reliance. 20. Have I not written for you 30 sayings of counsel and knowledge? This emphasizes careful instruction. These words are intentional, not accidental. 21. To teach you what is true and reliable, so you can give sound answers to those who sent you. This teaches that wisdom equips a person to speak truth responsibly, especially when representing others. 22. Do not exploit the poor because they are poor, and do not crush the needy in court. This means vulnerability must never be used as leverage. Justice is God's concern. 23. For the Lord will take up their cause and take the life of those who prey on them. This tells us God personally defends the oppressed. Exploitation invites divine intervention. 24. Do not befriend a hot-tempered person and do not associate with one prone to anger. This teaches that proximity shapes character. Anger spreads through association. 25. Or you may learn their ways and entangle yourself in a snare. This means habits are contagious. What you tolerate, you may eventually imitate. 26. Do not be one who gives pledges or puts up security for debts. This teaches caution with financial entanglements that risk stability. 27. If you lack the means to pay, your very bed may be taken from under you. This tells us reckless commitments carry severe consequences. Do not move an ancient boundary stone set up by your ancestors. This teaches respect for established moral and communal limits. Some lines exist for protection. Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand before kings, not before obscure men. This means excellence elevates. Faithful diligence leads to influence. Proverbs 22, Phase 2. Historical and cultural anchorings. Proverbs 22 emerges from a world where social hierarchy, family lineage, commerce, and legal systems were deeply interwoven. Wealth and poverty were visible realities, often determining power, vulnerability, and survival. Education occurred primarily through oral instruction, making repetition and memorization essential. The latter portion of the chapter introduces the sayings of the wise, signaling a formal instructional unit likely used to train young men for leadership, governance, and household responsibility. Justice toward the poor, integrity in trade, and restraint in financial obligation were critical for societal stability. Contemporary continuity. Though the cultural setting has changed, the dynamics remain strikingly familiar. Reputation still outlives income. Debt still enslaves. Power still tempts exploitation. The chapter speaks directly into modern systems, credit economies, professional ambition, parenting philosophies, and social influence. Proverbs 22 warns that progress without wisdom leads to collapse, and that unchecked access to power magnifies moral failure rather than success. The ancient call to humility, foresight, and discipline is acutely relevant in a world driven by speed, consumption, and image. Linguistic anchorings. The Hebrew text relies heavily on contrast and consequence-driven parallelism. Terms associated with training, discipline, and instruction imply shaping, bending, and directing, suggesting wisdom is formed, not discovered accidentally. The phrase often translated as train up carries the sense of initiating a path or dedicating someone to a direction. Language surrounding wealth and poverty is deliberately blunt, resisting romanticization. The modern phrasing in Phase 1 preserves the firmness of the original text while expressing it in language that sounds natural to contemporary ears. Theological anchorings. The chapter affirms God as the ultimate equalizer and moral authority. Human systems, wealth, status, contracts, and influence are subordinate to divine justice. God actively defends the poor, resists the proud, and blesses humility, generosity, and diligence. Wisdom is framed not merely as practical skill, but as alignment with God's character and order. Trust in the Lord is presented as the central goal of instruction, positioning wisdom as relational, not merely intellectual. Key themes. Character over currency. Reputation and integrity outweigh material gain. Power and responsibility. Wealth and influence intensify moral accountability. Formation through discipline. Early guidance shapes lifelong direction. Debt and dependence. Financial decisions affect freedom and authority. Temptation as deception. Seduction, sexual or otherwise, masks destruction. Justice for the vulnerable. God personally defends those exploited by power. Closing thought, Proverbs 22 teaches that wisdom governs every layer of life: personal, financial, social, and spiritual. It calls for intentional formation, careful associations, disciplined choices, and reverence for God's order. The chapter exposes the myth that success is self-made, insisting instead that lasting stability flows from humility, foresight, and obedience to divine wisdom. Reflection prompts. Where are you prioritizing image or gain over character? Are there financial or relational commitments limiting your freedom? How intentionally are you shaping the next generation entrusted to you? In what areas might foresight and restraint protect you from future harm?